It looks like we're good to go, Senator.
Okay, Mr. President.
Excellent. Well, thank you, and appreciate all of the staff and members for being able to put this together this morning. Certainly more quickly than we expected. Appreciate you, Chair King, Chair Healy, members of the Senate Reapportionment and Redistricting Committee and the House Rules Committee. As all of you know, the General Assembly passed House Bill 1, Chapter 32 during the December 2021 special session. As most of you know as well, last Friday, the circuit court judge found the map unconstitutional by applying a new standard of the state constitution applying to the construction of the congressional maps for Maryland. The order also directed the General Assembly to develop a new congressional map by tomorrow, March 30th, a total of 5 days, including Saturday and Sunday. So what we have before us today is Senate Bill 1012, which responds to that circuit court order that the General Assembly develop a new congressional map in 5 days. Due to the extraordinary time restraints, we are having this new map bill hearing this morning, and witness sign-up was opened at 8:30 p.m. after the Senate bill was introduced and was left open until 7:30 this morning. The timeline that is before us was one imposed by the courts, and so I think we were all trying to do the best that we can to make sure that we comply with the court order as expeditiously as possible. To provide a very brief overview, the congressional map that's proposed in Senate Bill 1012 does the following. It demonstrates a commitment to the Federal Voting Rights Act by ensuring that minority voters retain their ability to elect their preferred candidates. It also preserves the state's 2 Voting Rights Act districts, the 4th Congressional District and the 7th Congressional District. It has significantly more compact districts, and it also ensures that no jurisdiction has more than 3 districts within. I appreciate the work of this committee. Thank you, Madam Chairs, and I urge the committee to adopt a favorable committee report.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll now start with the public hearing on this bill. The first we have signed up is Liliana Norcatus. Each witness will have 2 minutes. Liliana, you can start.
Madam Chair. Madam
Yes.
Chair, for process. This is Senator Simon Ayer.
Okay, what is the process? Is that what you're saying?
I was just asking, was that the presentation of the bill? Senate President Ferguson, was he presenting it?
Yes, uh-huh.
Okay, I'd just like to ask a question or two if I could.
Sure, go ahead.
I understand this is a new process and all that, but could you explain to the public what the process was and how it went forward in these 4 days leading up to this process today?
Sure. On Friday afternoon, the court issued an opinion, a 94-page opinion, and I believe 5-page order. That order said that the General Assembly shall develop a congressional plan. There were many conversations with the Attorney General between myself and the Speaker and our respective staff members and the Attorney General's office to first and most importantly understand the order. It was a new interpretation of application of the Maryland State Constitution to the drawing of congressional maps. And we asked staff to put together, in consultation with the Attorney General, a map that would comply with the court's order and the Voting Rights Act.
Okay, I just wanted, and I have great respect for you, but publicly that the Republican side was not involved at all. And when you say General Assembly, it makes it sound like the Republicans were involved. We were informed, but not involved. And I think that's a flaw in the process. I just wanted to put that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, any other questions for the bill sponsor before we continue?
Actually,
Okay,
I do have a couple of questions, if I could.
okay.
Can I proceed?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. President, does each of the congressional districts contained in this map have exactly the same population?
Yes, it does, Senator. I believe it is maybe to one person. It is the closest, it conforms with the requirements of congressional districts.
Okay. Were any members of the press present in the room when the map was drafted?
The map was put together over the weekend, so it was introduced on Monday evening and has a hearing this morning in order to comply with the requirement that the map be presented or developed by tomorrow.
But my question was, at the time the map was drafted, were any members of the press alerted that the drafting was going to occur and given the opportunity to be present in the room while the drafting occurred?
Senator, I don't believe that there is a single bill in the legislature in which the press is present while the bill is being drafted.
Okay. And my last question, I've had a brief opportunity to take a look at it. Baltimore City, the city line seemed to be breached 3 times. In 2000, this led the Maryland Court of Appeals to overturn the map because of the 3-time breaching of the city line. What leads the drafters of this bill to conclude that the Court of Appeals won't follow its precedent and do the same thing a second time?
Senator, I don't believe that we can read the mind of the Court of Appeals. However, the map that is before you is I believe in the city, there are 2 congressional districts. That is a reduction from the current map from the 2011 map, which had 3. So it is a reduction and it enhances the compactness of the 2 districts that are within the city lines.
Okay, thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you. Delegate Szeliga?
Thank you, Senator. So is anyone on the call that actually drew the map? I mean, usually we heard from Carl Arrow or Michelle. Is anybody on this Zoom that was involved in the actual drawing of the map?
Delegate, this is it's a Senate bill that was introduced to the Maryland General Assembly last night at around 7:15. So it is in the possession of the Senate.
Okay, so again, did you, Senator Ferguson, draw the map? I mean, somebody should be on the Zoom call that actually drew the map.
Thank you for that perspective.
No, so you're saying no, there isn't anyone on the call that drew the map.
The Department of Legislative Services drafted the language that led to the bill that is before us.
But again, someone, look, I've drawn a map. Go on Dave's redistricting tool, take this mouse and you draw the map. So, I mean, for transparency reasons, can you tell us who was in the room when you drew the map? Who actually drew the map?
We are debating a piece of legislation that was drafted by the Department of Legislative Services.
Okay, great. So was Carl Arrow involved? I mean, he was involved in the last drawing.
I believe I answered that question already, Delegate.
Okay, well, for the record, I'd like to state that this could in no way be called a transparent action of something of this magnitude that we're not even, as a lawmaker, I can't even know who drew the map. So the public is clearly shut out from this process. So I'm very disappointed, and we have all kinds of open meetings laws that we pass every year, many of them coming before us right now. And this seems to be in direct violation of the integrity of openness and transparency. It seems to be done under the cloak of darkness. And I'm very disappointed that it's gone forward that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. I appreciate that perspective. I would remind members that the court requested a turnaround of a map within 5 days.
Thank you. Senator Eckert?
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. Mr. President, I just wanted to get clear on my own mind that the court order directed the Maryland General Assembly to redraw the map. Is that correct?
Say more specifically, the order requested that the General Assembly develop a congressional plan by March 30th.
Okay, and then the interpretation was that
Advice from the Attorney General was that we should work as expeditiously as possible to present an alternative option by March 30th.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to get that clear in my mind. Thank you.
Okay, Delegate Buckle?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, Mr. President.
Morning.
We're both graduates of the University of Maryland School of Law. I don't know if you read Judge Battaglia's opinion. I remember she actually taught me criminal procedure many years ago. I didn't have the ability, it's 94 pages. I think it was hard to parse all of it, but it seemed to me to sort of come down to two primary points. Her point number one was that she believes that Maryland's congressional districts have to abide by the same standards of compactness and contiguity in communities of interest that we typically apply through statute and rule to our legislative districts, number one. And number two, she seemed to conclude that Maryland has an independent free elections clause, we'll just call it, if that makes sense to you. Free elections clause in our own Constitution or Declaration of Rights that inhibits or prohibits excessive partisan gerrymandering, independent from any federal claims about that. I've had an opportunity to look at the proposed map. It's almost impossible to tell what the map would look like from the bill itself. I think we all could concede that. You can't really read the bill and figure out what all the different census tracts mean. But simply in looking at the map, it seems like there's been some effort to go back and address the compactness considerations. But as to the partisan gerrymandering considerations, can you let me know, was the partisan makeup, whether through voter registration statistics or through history of recent elections, was that a factor at all taken into consideration in the construction of the alternative map that's before us today in this bill?
I would say that the driving factors for the map were to adhere both to the order and existing federal law. With regard to the opinion, would generally agree with the assessment. I think that from my own interpretation, certainly the Court of Appeals is the ultimate determinant of this decision. But for 160 years, legislative districts meant state legislative districts, and the interpretation applied because the word congressional was not included. That meant that congressional was included. And so that was a new interpretation. And so that order is the result of the state constitution's requirements. And so this map was built with that in mind, of using the same methods that we use for the creation of the state map to create this map.
And I just briefly for follow-up, I appreciate that. And it is, when you litigate for a living, as I do, you always have to concede that the judge gets the final say. And sometimes issues that have never been addressed before create new law or issues of first impression. But I guess what I'm directed toward most specifically is, in order to address what Judge Battaglia discussed or identified what she believed the LRAC map, the process you and I were both a part of, she thought constituted, I believe her words were extreme or excessive partisan gerrymandering. In order to reevaluate that as legislators, when we say, hey, have we really complied with Judge Battaglia's order in presenting her the alternative, don't we have to kind of know what the partisan makeup is? Voters can change their minds. Republicans can be elected in Democrat-leaning districts and vice versa. We know that. But don't we have to sort of have some kind of analysis or understanding of, when we constructed these new districts, are they outside of the sort of partisan norms of where Maryland is as a state? And do you have any information or analysis that was done that can guide us in that?
I don't think that the court is looking at political makeup. I don't believe that was a factor that was mentioned as a standard by which maps should be created. I do believe that it applied the Maryland Constitution's rules around compactness and due regard to political boundaries. And so that was the driving factor for this particular map. And, to your point of that the judge has a final say, that's why we're here this morning, is that we wanted to expeditiously comply with the order that was given to us on Friday evening.
And just one final quick thing. My understanding, and I haven't sussed this through the bill, but my understanding through some public comments that I believe my friend and colleague, the speaker, may have made, it is the intent, or is it written into the bill language, that this plan is contingent, meaning it would intended to be enacted if passed by the General Assembly, presented to Judge Battaglia, but that the Attorney General will proceed with an appeal on the legal issues that Judge Battaglia identified. And if the Court of Appeals would overturn Judge Battaglia's order, is it my understanding, I'm not positive, just want to be clear for the record, that under this bill, the Court of Appeals overturns Judge Battaglia, it's not this map that will then go into play, it's the prior map, it's the LRAC map that was passed many, many weeks ago now. Is that the understanding?
That's correct. And that was on advice from the Attorney General were that not the case, we would have two approved maps on different timelines and would create a conflict in law. And so the contingency language was essential in order for there to be an operative map for the upcoming election.
And you're not the Attorney General, but are you aware, have they appealed anything now? I mean, I'm just concerned about the timing of it. The Attorney General appeals, we pass this map in theory, everyone proceeds as if this map is going to work heading towards the July 19th primary. And then the Court of Appeals comes back and perhaps overturns Judge Battaglia, and then we have a radically different map. Are you aware if the Attorney General was moving in that direction for an appeal and an expedited resolution of that question?
That's a question the Attorney General would have to answer. But we are doing what is in our power to try to comply with the court order and abide by these the new standard.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the indulgence, Madam Chair.
Okay, Delegate Riley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yeah, you may have, Senate President Ferguson may have answered this question, but just to be clear, my understanding. So after you received the court order stating that we needed to, redraw the lines to meet certain regulations, was there any discussion, or was it possible that you could start from the Congressional Citizens Advisory map? Because we know that one passed muster more so than the current LRAC did. So wouldn't it have been wise to use that one to tweak it if possible, or were you not able to do that? Was that part of the discussion?
I would say, the alternative maps out there are thousands of different options that individuals have put together through various means and processes. I think what we did was review with the Attorney General the outline of the order and try to understand the new standards that were put in place, and then start from a position. Of course, the initial map that was passed by the General Assembly already, one of the driving factors was to keep the majority, and it ended up being, I think, around 64% of the residents in their current legislative districts, which we thought was an important value. That was, a partial factor here, but the more important factor was to comply with the court order. And so that's the map that we have before us.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Senator Kelly.
It was my understanding that this was to be a public hearing, and I thought there were members of the public who probably have signed up to testify, and it would seem to me it would be courteous and reasonable for us to hear from members of the public, and then we can find time subsequently to hash it out among ourselves. Unless I'm mistaken, I thought this was a public hearing.
Thanks, Senator. I think we have one more legislator to ask a question. Delegate Lukey.
Thank you, Senator. And Mr. President, thank you for your presentation. I just want to confirm. So my reading of the judge's order applied essentially two important standards, two new standards to these maps, and that was compactness and limiting the crossing of county and municipal boundaries. So are these districts more compact than they were in the previous map?
They are significantly more compact. I believe the average is around, I have to double check the statistics, but yes, by measuring the square miles of each district, it is less than the one that was passed and less than the 2011 map.
And under the order, the issue of boundaries. So I just want to walk through this quickly. Under this map, the Frederick County is now located entirely within a single congressional district. Is that right?
That's correct.
Montgomery County had previously had 4 congressional districts and is now down to 3. Is that correct?
And no jurisdiction has more than 3.
Okay. Harford County is now located entirely within the 1st congressional district. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Anne Arundel had 3 congressional districts previously, is now down to 2. Is that correct?
Also correct.
And Baltimore City had 3 congressional districts, is now down to 2. Is that correct?
Also correct.
So this map is aimed squarely at meeting the judge's requirements and timeline for the new maps. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take one more here. Delegate Shoemaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. President, just to follow up briefly on a question or two that Delegate Buckle raised, if I could. So, based upon what I'm understanding of your testimony, you indicated that no consideration was given in drawing this new map that's before us today with regard to partisan voting registration statistics from each of these, from any of these congressional districts. Am I right in drawing that conclusion?
This map was drawn first and foremost with the obligation of trying to meet the court order within 5 days. And so that was the driving factor, was to apply this new standard to the creation of a map in the timeframe that was provided by the court.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay. All right, we'll take one more question here. Delegate Kipke.
Thank you. At some point, one more question. It has to be the last one. Question is, I think Senator Kelly alluded to, we have people waiting from the public.
And the people from the public are all opposed to this bill, as far as I can tell. But in the interest of a full public hearing, we do usually allow for robust questioning, and we wouldn't want to limit it in any way, I would think, in the interest of transparency. Mr. President, I'm just curious. I know that the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee expressed great interest in participating in this lawsuit. To your knowledge, were they consulted as it relates to the creation of this map? And my second part of it is, who actually requested this map? Who are the designers? Who made the request of DLS?
To the first point, I had no conversations with any political organization related to this map. To the second point, the speaker and I requested staff to work with the Attorney General's office to comply with the order and to understand the new order, the standard that was provided, to understand the requirement from the order that said that we develop a plan and try to interpret that. And so that is why we're here today and trying to comply with a court order that is requires us to have a developed plan by tomorrow.
They definitely do look more compact, which I think is a step in the right direction. Was there any direction given to DLS in the generation of the maps, though, as it relates to political makeup of the districts?
The driving factors were the ones that I outlined.
So that's a no?
To answer the question.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start with the witnesses here. We have first Liliana Norquedas. Are you on?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Senator.
Okay, you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the Reapportionment and Redistricting Committee. My name is Liliana Norquedas, and I am an 18-year-old resident living in Harford County. Earlier this session, I testified in front of this very body unfavorable of the proposed legislative redistricting maps. As I stated then, I'm a high school senior. Today, I'm sitting in a classroom pleading once again for you to not accept unfair maps that do not represent the state of Maryland. I will be a first-time voter when I cast my ballot on July 19th. Hopefully that date remains the same. And I want all Marylanders to feel that they are in a fair district that was drawn without following any political agenda. Although I am happy to see that we no longer have the dinosaur District 3, which extended across too many county borders from Hartford to Montgomery, I know we can do better. Rural Maryland is still being silenced when urban cities are drawn into the district, which is what occurs with the proposed districts 2 and 6. As I quoted in January, there are 2 types of gerrymandering, packing and cracking, and it is still evidence these maps use packing to create 7 Democratic strongholds, which is definitely not representative of our state. When looking at other factors, these maps are proven to still be unfair. Democrats outnumber Republicans 2-1, and this figure is nearly the exact representation of both the House of Delegates and the state Senate. It is baffling that our congressional representation is democratically outnumbered 7-1, when it is proven that if our state was given the opportunity, we could be more fair. Although I have not yet completed AP statistics this year, I don't need to be a certified statistician to know that the federal representation is heavily inflated to be a Democratic majority. I'm not asking for a 5-3 GOP map or a 4-4 map or even a 5-3 Dem map. I'm asking for the map to reflect that of our state demographics. No county in Maryland should have their vote diluted in Congress. The new proposal is still taxation without representation, and it must not pass. I urge you to not pass the proposed congressional maps and allow for rural citizens across the state, like myself, the chance of equal representation in Congress. We must do better, and I know you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Nicole Bennett. Nicole Bennett here. Okay, how about Ann Rutherford?
We do not have Ann Rutherford, but I believe Nicole Bennett should be on with us now.
Okay. Nicole Bennett,
Good morning.
good morning. You have 2 minutes here. Thank you.
Thank you. I won't even use up all 2 minutes as I'm sitting on the Beltway stuck in traffic. But I did want to say, thank you guys for allowing us to speak and hearing our opinions on the new map. I live in District 5. Steny Hoyer has been our congressman for all of my adult life since I've moved to Maryland. While I agree that Mr. Hoyer is a very nice man, I've met him on several occasions, my issue is that by extending District 5 beyond Southern Maryland, that we're not going to have our voices heard. Our voices will be diluted. And by that, I mean, most of Southern Maryland is very rural, as I'm sure you are aware. We are people who support responsible gun ownership. By extending the district into higher up into Prince George's, and I believe there's some of Montgomery that's in there as well, our voices are going to be diluted. There are going to be more people who vote against or encourage him to vote against our interests because they don't share our community culture. So this is really disenfranchising of the people who live in Southern Maryland. With that also said, I don't think it's appropriate to give such a stretch to any congressperson. I think it'll be harder to be fair and equitable across the board, and it may just be asking a bit too much. Again, this is not disparaging of Congressman Hoyer. Again, I think he's a wonderful person, but politically we differ. I would ask that the committee unfavorably for this map and it adopt the citizens map. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Ann Rutherford? Not here. How about Antonio Pataco?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, 2 minutes, Mr. Pataco.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for putting this together. I'd like to know if the committee or the party in the majority knows this all could have been avoided. You guys were handed a map that was crafted by a bipartisan citizens commission during the last round. And during the last round of testimony, there were more people in favor of the citizens map. And unfortunately, those of you in the majority did what politicians normally do and ignored the will of the people. There's no secret that Republicans gerrymander in favor of themselves in other states, and that is wrong too. But the fact that this body would prefer to do what is politically convenient for their own party rather than what's right is incredibly unfortunate. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and the party in the majority is giving us a masterclass in that right now. This new map was introduced later last night, giving people a limited time frame on signing up to testify. I know the Senate president wanted this process to be done expeditiously, but had you just passed the fair maps the first time, we wouldn't even be talking right now. I urge the committee to vote no on the new maps. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dave Faby? Not here. Michael Arntz?
Chair King, that completes the list of people that we have in who have entered the waiting room. We don't have any other members of the public that are waiting.
Okay. Jane Cuddy is not here?
Nope.
Okay. All right. I think that concludes our public hearing. And at the conclusion of this, the committee will vote. Senator Young, did you have a question? You're muted.
No.
There you go.
I just wanted to put something on the record, in as much as I know that District 6 comes into question as to why we in Montgomery County. So if I could, I'd just like to put 5 quick things on the record.
Quick thing.
Okay, first off, Montgomery County originally came out of Frederick County, as did part of other counties. In my lifetime, I believe that Montgomery County has been part of District 6, except for 1 decade. It has traditionally always been part of, a part of Montgomery County has always been part of District 6. The major population growth in Frederick and District 6 has come from Montgomery County, and thousands of Frederick County residents work in Montgomery County. And also Frederick is part of the Washington Council of Governments, not the Baltimore Council of Governments, as for example, Carroll County is. So I just wanted to put those things on the record, why it's justifiable to go into Montgomery County as part of District 6. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Griffith.
Chair King, Chair Healy, I didn't know if there were any additional questions, but if there were none, I was going to ask for a favorable report on Senate Bill 1012, which I believe is responsive to the, oops, I'm supposed to wait until there's other questions. I apologize.
Wait 1 second. Delegate Healy has a question or a statement.
Yes, thank you very much, Senator King. And I thank you for including the House Rules and Executive Nominations Committee in this public hearing to expedite the process. However, it is a Senate bill, and it's proper for the Senate members to be voting on this bill. The House Rules Committee will not be voting on this bill at this time. We will take this up afterwards, after it has moved forward in the process. So with that, I believe that the House members will not be participating in your vote, and we are free to go to our other meetings.
Okay, thank you. All right, Senator Griffith, want to make your motion again?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And I apologize for that. I'll wait until the House members have been able to get on with their agendas for the day. I apologize. Madam Chair, I would move favorable on Senate Bill 1012, which, as I stated, is a bill that is responsive to the court order that we develop a congressional plan by March 30th with compactness and due regard for political boundaries in mind. So would move favorable on the bill.
Second, Madam Chair.
Is there a second? Okay, that's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Is anyone opposed? Okay, Senator West, Senator Riley, and Senator Eckert, and Senator Simonaire. Okay, thank you all very much.
Can we speak to our vote? Can we speak to our vote?
Sure.
I just wanted to say I voted no on this one because we were informed at a very late hour, and I was very disappointed.
So we're waiting.
Do think it would be good to have us all involved. Thank you.
Senator West.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly to speak to what I spoke to earlier, I've got the map in front of me. The Baltimore City line is breached 4 times. District 7 extends beyond the line to the west. It extends beyond the line to the east. District 2 extends down into Baltimore City from the north, and District 3 extends into Baltimore City from the south. In fact, if you look at the map, it's very hard to discern.
Senator West, can I stop you for 1 second?
Sure.
We've already voted on this bill, and it's going to come to the floor. So you can bring all those comments to the floor debate.
Fair
Okay?
statement. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Thank you all very much. See you on the floor.